Corporate asked us for some behind-the-scenes stuff recently, so I was like, okay, I'll shoot more. Corporate.
Hello and welcome to the Android Police Podcast. My name is Daniel Bader.
My name is Just Off a Plane, Will Saddleberg.
Just off a plane and gee whiz, are my arms tired.
It's the
Will
calendar,
Saddleberg.
the name of the calendar appointment for this record that I sent you a few days ago. I laughed in the back of an Uber when I sent it, and I laughed 20 minutes ago when I saw it on my phone.
You're secretly a 70-year-old man. That's what it
Absolutely.
is. I love it. Okay, so this week on the show, we're going to talk about your trip to New York to
The Big Apple.
witness the unveiling of 3 new Moto Razrs. I've made it very clear on this show many times that I love this line of phones. And I also...
Uh-oh.
Well, this
I know
line
what your
of
reaction
phones.
is to this week, so...
So then,
Uh-oh.
and then I basically bullied you into adding a very, very strong adverb to your title. And
This is probably too inside baseball, but I love when you give me a title, I say, I don't like that, and then I use it anyway.
well, I was gonna message you earlier and be like, I'm not your boss anymore, and you don't have to actually listen to me.
Yeah, I had that thought when I put the title in. I was like, I don't have to listen to Daniel, but he's probably right.
But it was a better title, so I appreciate you actually acknowledging that. But it is interesting. So I've said this on the show. I was looking forward to the Razr Plus this year. I think the Razr Plus from 2024 is still the best flip foldable on the market.
Yeah.
And the irony is that it is still going to be the best flip phone on the market in 2025, and we can talk about why. Even though Motorola released a so-called Ultra.
The Ultra will be better. But
It's a better phone. Is it a better value phone? That is
we're going to talk
100% not up for debate. We'll talk about I have a very awesome Switch 2 pre-order story that I want to tell you.
I have a Switch 2 pre-order story too.
Okay, I
which
can't
is why
wait.
we
We
need to
have
talk
not
about
shared this yet. Neither of us have
Nope.
spoken in a few days because Will's been traveling. So we're going to see how interesting we can make this. We're doing it live. And then we'll talk about, by far and away, the most trafficked story on Android Police this week was a news piece that our colleague Timmy wrote about how everybody is leaving Verizon and the company is just in the toilet in terms of net losses. So we'll talk about why, where people are going, and what these big 3 carriers, the postpaid carriers, are doing about it. Yeah. So, and the story for Verizon and T-Mobile is not actually as dire as it seems for many anti-competitive reasons that are probably pretty obvious to you. And then if we have time, we'll go over some Google I/O stuff because Google I/O's schedule was announced. Android 16 is coming. More AI is coming. It's going to be full. Man, it's a mess. It's going to be an interesting keynote. Plus the fact that if you're going to I/O this year, they're not even opening up the media lounge on day 2. That's just not a thing they're doing anymore. You're there for one day.
Fine.
If you want to be there on day 2, you're allowed to, but you're
very
not getting
little
snacks.
Very little reason as media to go in.
They may give you some coffee, but there are no snacks. Okay.
Linus is here. He's back.
Hi, Linus.
He was here in the pre-record and he's back now. So
okay, that's
another reason you should watch the
that's
the
$5.
video,
You get to see Linus for $5. Send it to my personal Patreon, and I will share more about that later.
Wait,
Okay.
it's getting sent to you?
Yes.
My
I didn't tell you this.
All right. Anyway, Motorola.
Tell me what happened. What happened to you? You look like you've been through a war.
Motorola had a very long press conference that was not televised in any way, but was set up. Or I don't know. Maybe it's somewhere on YouTube. Friend of the show and previous guest Ben shown at 9 to 5 said that he saw a camera in the back, but like they certainly didn't have it set up to record it with like multiple cameras. So I think it was probably just being recorded for internal use. But Jules, I should say, our silent producer, was there with me sitting through this as well. They did an hour and a half press conference on how many partnerships and brands Motorola is working with before they ever even came close to announcing the phone. They would reference things like Razr Ultra while not having announced it. So the only reason I knew what they were talking about was because of like leaks. And then they finally announced the phone over like another like hour-long press conference. It was a very sluggish Tuesday. And then we got to try the phones. Jules and I accidentally wandered into the international section of their hands-on space. Oh, thank you, Jules. Jules says that there was a launch stream for their thing yesterday. It did not use footage from the thing we attended. We accidentally wandered into the international section of the hands-on area, which the only difference was that it said Moto Razr 60 instead of Moto Razr or Moto Razr Plus.
And everything was in Brazilian or Portuguese. Not
They
Brazilian.
roped us off at one point. Like we were still back there. We looked over and there were just ropes and like plants blocking the way. And I was like, what happened? Like we've been here. Those were not there when we walked over.
You live here now.
They didn't ask us to leave though. They were just like, they're already there. I guess they're there. The other section, the North American section, was packed with journalists. So we just kind of stayed on our side. But 3 phones. The Razr Ultra is the one that is like fully new. That's the one we should probably start with. The Razr is a decent upgrade. That's the $700 model. And the Razr Plus is essentially the same phone as last year. Like it's almost unchanged spec for spec. So 3 phones, Daniel, I will leave it to you. Where do you want to start?
Let's go least to most expensive. So let's start with the cheaper Razr. Still $700, $699.
Yep. It's a newer MediaTek chip. It's a generation newer than what was in the last one. It's got a larger battery, and they all have reinforced hinges that feel pretty snappy, and they're all IP48 instead of X8 certified now. I believe the Razr Plus in 2023 was IP58, so we're not quite back there yet. But the colors on this thing are excellent. I really liked the $700 Razr last year. I actually liked it a little more than the Razr Plus because it had much better battery life. The less power hungry chip combined with a bigger battery just made for a good experience. I didn't really feel like the smaller display made an impact on using it. And it's that phone again, but like slightly more powerful, longer battery life. I think it's probably a good value at $700. And it's going to drop. I mean, like tariffs notwithstanding. If this is a normal year and things go normally, it'll probably be like $500 in a few months pretty routinely, which is pretty crazy for a foldable.
Yeah, and the good color. It has the green.
I love that spring green. The minty green color is like really nice in person and in renders.
Once again,
yeah.
The cheaper phone gets the better color.
It really does. Motorola made such a big deal on stage about how they're the one brand that like does colors and like isn't just like black, white, neutral tones. And I'm still like, but you did save the most poppy color for the cheap one. So you are also guilty of this. But yeah.
The one thing that I am relatively excited about, which I believe hits all 3 phones, is the redesigned hinge makes it more robust, but also lessens the crease.
Yeah.
Is that is true of the cheaper Motorola Razr?
I think so. I think they're all using the same basic hinge. I'd have to confirm that. So it's possible I'm wrong and maybe that's not true. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the crease in my hands-on, to be honest with you. It was there from what I remember. The thing about these flip phones is that the crease is always a little more noticeable than on like book style foldables, but they seem to age a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So like you kind of start out with a little bit of a more noticeable crease, but it doesn't get worse in the same way that like a OnePlus Open might. So yeah, I don't know. I think we'll have to see how that goes with like review units, but the hinge felt good and snappy, unlike last year where I think the Razr 2023 like really needed some hinge improvements. The thing was pretty floppy. The hinges on last year's Razrs were pretty solid. So I wasn't going into this asking for more improvements to rigidity, but I'm not going to be mad about it. Like that's a good thing for these Linus. That's a good thing for these to have. So
for $700, you basically, it's 8 gigs of RAM instead of 12. You get slower UFS 2.2 storage. Your cameras are downgraded a little bit, but like same abilities on this 3.6-inch front display. Mm-hmm. And in general, like you get all the AI slop that you're getting on the other devices too, right?
You sure do. Yeah, all of these have the same. It's not a Pixel 9a situation. All three of these phones have the same suite of Moto AI features, which includes the three they announced with last year's phones. It's Pay Attention, which is a recording app. It's Remember This, which is like a journaling app, sort of, kind of. You save information, it can recall it. And I'm gonna forget the third one from last year. That's a bummer. I will come back to it, or Jules might find it and put it in the chat. The new ones this year were like you can make a we'll use like contextual information on the display to like figure out what you should do next, which I think is just like looking for related search terms to what you're already doing. And the one that I still can't wrap my head around was like they were like, we've made this playlist creating AI tool. It creates a playlist based on what you're doing. So if you're baking a birthday cake, it'll make a birthday cake playlist. But it used like a made up song, a birthday song in the playlist to demo it in the presentation.
Oh,
so
that would
I have
be even
no
better
idea.
if it made like an AI song,
Oh my
not even
God,
just the
no.
playlist. Like the song itself was
So
randomly
bad.
generated every time.
I have no idea what to make of any of that. I frankly think most people won't use it. We couldn't test it, to be clear, because when you activated Moto AI in any of these hands-on devices, and this isn't me talking around having a review unit, by the way, I do not have a review unit. It asked you to sign in with your Motorola account. So I couldn't even if I wanted to. But yeah, the Catch Me Up. Thank you, Jules. Catch Me Up was the other one from last year, which was it would tell you what notifications you missed while you were gone. I would say last year's were a little more at the very least you can see the vision with last year's. I'm not sure I saw the vision with this year's features. But AI is the name of the game, which is why they've built, I know I'm jumping ahead a bit, but they built an AI key into the Ultra, not the Razr or the Razr Plus, just the Razr Ultra. There's a shortcut key that activates Moto AI with a long press.
Before we move into like the two other pieces of hardware, this was kind of Motorola's pièce de résistance, if you will. They've partnered with Perplexity. They've partnered with Google.
Yep.
You can basically pick your AI poison, and it's all like Moto AI is the front end, and then everything else is powered by some preferred partner based on what you're doing. So it feels like what Apple has sort of done with ChatGPT, and it's said it's going to do with Google, right? Like you'll be able to choose which AI service is best suited for the task that you're trying to accomplish. Based on what we know about Google from its search monopoly trial that it lost, according to reporting from, I think it was Bloomberg the other day, Google is paying Samsung a boatload, quote, boatload of money to put Gemini as the primary AI tool on its devices. And one of the things that Google is in hot water for right now around that trial in particular is that it pays Apple $20 billion a year to be the primary search engine built into the iPhone. And I wonder now, obviously the cost of this is not going to be $20 billion. I don't think Google is paying Samsung $20 billion a year to put Gemini on the Galaxy. But what's really interesting is, unlike Google search, which I think people believe is the best search engine.
I was just about to make this point. I'm glad you're making it. Go ahead.
Perplexity and ChatGPT are actually competing with Gemini.
Yeah.
Right? So Google has a greater incentive to spend, quote, boatloads of money to make Gemini, and therefore the future of its search engine, the primary AI tool in Android devices, while it's under extreme scrutiny not to be an exclusive provider of said services, and will likely legally be prevented from doing so very, very soon.
Which is hilarious because it's Google's advantage of having Gemini on like every Android device, like by default, basically, is like something that Apple just can't compete with. They're kind of trying to with this ChatGPT partnership, but like it's not the same thing remotely. And like it's especially because Apple is trying to push more of a privacy angle to it, whether or not that means anything. And the other side of this is, I think, let's say tomorrow, it's Saturday tomorrow, but let's say tomorrow the courts order that Google needs to stop all of this. They can't pay Samsung or Apple to include these apps by default anymore. I still think most people, and we've seen this in the EU, I feel like, but most people on iOS would pick, or even if they had to pick on Android, would pick Google search as their default search engine. If you were suddenly, it's like the next slide is like, okay, now pick your AI assistant, and it's like Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and on and on and on. Do people default to Gemini? Like, I'm not even talking about the quality of Gemini. Like, by all accounts, like 2.5 Pro is a pretty solid LLM. But like, is that the one?
No.
I don't think it is. I think people would default to ChatGPT if they were going to pick one, or they might say if there's a like skip do later, they would pick skip do later. But like, I feel like those would be the two, and then Gemini would probably be in like a distant third. And it is fascinating to me that Google could lose this advantage because like, if they're going to quote unquote win the AI wars, whatever that even means, if that's even a real thing.
Oh, they want it to be, but go on.
They want it to be. I'm not convinced it's as real as, say, like the search engine wars of the 2000s or the smartphone wars of the 2010s. But let's, for the sake of this conversation, just pretend that it is definitely a real thing. Their advantage of being on Android is like the biggest thing they have going for them to combat OpenAI, and it's so fascinating that they could lose that or cede ground to partners who are clearly interested in doing deals like Perplexity.
So what's, I think, most important to understand here is that back when Chrome was, and the irony here is that one of the remedies that the DOJ wants Google to be subjected to in this search trial is to sell Chrome, because Chrome as a product is one of the biggest conduits to Google search and reinforces that monopoly every time somebody uses Chrome because of the Omnibar. They want Google to sell Chrome, and Yahoo and Perplexity and basically
OpenAI,
every other smaller company.
DuckDuckGo says they can't afford it.
No.
Which, fair.
But what's funny is that like back when this was happening, Internet Explorer was the monopoly because Microsoft forced everybody to use it when they used Windows. And Chrome was a better product that won the market through actually competing, and then is now in a position where through sheer scale just reinforces Google's other monopolies, which is, I mean, legally speaking, I'm not saying this out of turn. I'm saying literally they have been convicted of this twice now, of having a search monopoly and an ad tech monopoly. Not to say that the ads don't display properly in Firefox or Edge or whatever, but like most browsers use Chromium. Google's entire ad tech stack has been built on optimizing for Chromium. So when Microsoft changed Edge to work on Chromium because the whole industry was moving in that direction, like that was a consideration. It advantaged Google to some extent on the ad tech side. But that's like neither here nor there. Going back to this idea that users might have to choose their preferred AI client, of course they're going to choose ChatGPT because nobody knows what Gemini is yet, right? Much to Google's chagrin.
I feel like it does have some amount of name recognition. It's probably it's certainly behind ChatGPT and OpenAI, and it's ahead of Perplexity, but those are probably the three that have any amount of name recognition. And even Perplexity, I would say, is really only among like nerds. I'm not trying to sound rude, but like, you know what I mean.
But like, okay, here's the thing. First of all, I completely disagree with you. Like at a scale that Google operates, Gemini is completely unknown. I would say Gemini is probably the same amount of known as the Pixel, in the sense of when people associate brands with Google, what do they associate? They associate everything that starts with the word Google. Google Search, Google Maps, Google Photos, right? Like these are well-known brands. Gemini, not so much. Pixel, not so much.
I guess it depends on how much ad-supported television you watch. Like, because I have seen so many Pixel and Gemini ads just from like sports alone, that I think my brain maybe has been warped a little bit by this.
I guess so, but I think what's happened is they will say Google's ChatGPT or Google's AI.
Sure.
I mean, whether or not that matters is up to like the marketing people to talk about, but
Right.
I think what's more important here is that ChatGPT is AI to the vast majority of people who don't follow this industry closely. And even if Gemini, and like we've seen this over and over again, every time a new model launches, the companies fall over themselves to release a blog post showing meaningless benchmarks saying that Gemini is better than ChatGPT or GPT 4o plus 2 at this one random thing. And it matters not, period. Like it just does not matter anymore. The models themselves are quickly commoditizing. I don't even know if I go to Gemini and I want to think about what I am going to use it for.
Yeah.
There's a drop down menu where you can choose the model. There are 5 or 6 of them to choose from. I haven't even messed with that in months because I don't care, frankly. Right. And it's true of ChatGPT. It's true of Claude. It's true of all the other ones, Llama as well. And the reality is that, like, I think if somebody was posed with the question of what search engine do you want, everybody's going to choose Google because the experience they have using Google search is predictable. And if they were given the same choice with an AI provider, they don't care because none of them produce consistent results yet. They are all bad at everything. And I'm not just, I don't mean to undermine the people that find these AI tools useful, but the consistency is the thing. And people have gotten used to Google search, which I'm not defending. Google search is not a good experience
pretty bad
anymore
in its current state. Yeah.
But I'm saying they know it, and Google's monopoly is constantly reinforced because of that. And we're, I think, privileged in some way not to be experiencing that in the AI world. But I also think the other side of the coin is that because there is so much competition here and Google is not as dominant, it's a toss-up, and people are like, I don't care. And I don't think this will be true for many people until Siri's version of whatever AI Apple ends up releasing is good. If whatever they end up releasing is good, because it's not guaranteed that it will ever be good.
I just don't see a world where that's good. Like, right. Is that like we've lived in a world where Siri launched in 2012 and right? No, 11. 11?
4S. 4S. It was 11. 4S. 2011.
2011. Siri launched in 2011. And since at least 2013, I've been hearing about how bad Siri is. So, like, there was a good 2 years in there where people were like, damn, this thing can set a timer. And then I guess people got over that. And they were like, can it set 2 timers? And everyone was like, no. So, no, I agree with you, but, like, I don't see that happening. We should talk about the Razr.
No, but I think, okay, fair. Yes. But I just want to end this point by saying,
go for it.
The fact that Perplexity is being pre-installed as a provider on these Razrs alongside Gemini, and you can choose between the two,
and Perplexity has cover display support along with Gemini. They
right, and great. I'm sure, like, Gemini Live is a thing. Perplexity also has a Gemini Live style assistant.
Take your word for it.
I'm sure it's good. I mean, I've used Perplexity a little bit. It seems like it's a better product, and like we could spend hours talking about what is an AI product these days, right? Like, is an AI product just a front end to your model? Because Perplexity, when you open the Perplexity app, it gives you like a news feed that's been generated by its alleged scraping of the internet's news providers, and it's been sued a number of times because of that. But again, that's an aside. But I think, like, the fact that it's just an AI provider on a phone that Motorola is releasing is completely unimportant. It is not important to the end user because they don't care. It's important to Motorola because Motorola is going to be rolling in cash, because every AI company is throwing money at anything it can because they have the valuations to back it up, right?
Right.
So Perplexity can throw $1 billion at Motorola a year, and it's chump change, but Motorola needs it because it's not a huge smartphone maker anymore, right? It is in Brazil, but in North America, it's not. And I think these deals say far more about the manufacturer struggling to monetize services far more than it does about the users that are going to benefit from these integrations. Because we heard just this week too that Perplexity might be pre-installed on future Samsung phones as an alternative to Gemini, right? So it goes back to that lack of exclusivity. Samsung likes the fact that it has leverage over Google right now where it didn't in the past, because Google's search dominance allowed it to basically strong arm OEMs like Samsung and Motorola into pre-installing all these other useless Google services like Google Chat, which should not exist. Shut the fucking thing down. Sorry, Jules. It should not exist. I'm mad at Google Chat because it
leave that in,
Hangouts for me.
Jules. Don't cut it. Uncensored. They need to hear this in Mountain View.
You know what's good though? Every time somebody sends me $5, I just hear a ching in my ear. It's like come and it's my what's it? OnlyFans. That's what.
Speaking of OnlyFans,
yes, I want to hear
breaking news. He didn't do an OnlyFans. He had a cameo, but George Santos has been sentenced to 7 years in prison. That's all. It's not really a tech story, but it
wasn't
was
he sentenced as well? Like, wasn't he already sentenced, or was he just convicted?
I think he was convicted. This was his sentencing.
Okay, so let's the first part of his long 7-year sentence should be listening to you talk about the Razr Plus. See what I did there? So,
well, how am I gonna? It's gonna be two. Look, it's last year's phone, but like Motorola put Android 15 on it.
Okay,
you know, like
that's
they haven't
good.
put Android 15 on the last one, so. God, yeah, it's. I really don't have much to say about the Razr Plus. Like, it exists purely to have a phone at the $1,000 price point. That's why that thing is there. But it's the same. It's the 8S Gen 3, like last year's.
Is there anything different? Anything at all?
Colors, the finish is not. It's. I believe the finish is matte now.
Okay.
Instead of glossy.
And there's the new hinge, which is
there's
on
the
all
new
three
hinge
phones.
in the IP. They're all IP48, like I said. But like realistically, it's look. If you see last year's Razr Plus for $800, which is I think what it was at Amazon when I looked a couple days ago, and you're interested in these phones, you should consider buying it because it's essentially the same phone for cheaper. You're going to have less software support, obviously, but Motorola software support is bad. So you're already going to get bad software support, which is kind of what I wrote about in my hands-on, where what I'm finding so frustrating, and maybe this is where we get into the Ultra, is that like, I'm sorry, but a phone that is going to get 3 OS upgrades is not. I can't justify spending $1,300 on, or recommending anybody spend $1,300 on a phone that will end at Android 18, and that update will arrive 18 months late. Motorola, if you want to have a $1,300 phone, you have to step up.
A $1,300 flip phone, no less. Like,
flip phone.
Okay, let's talk about it. So the Razr Ultra, we saw leaks of this, but we, I think, assumed that it would be the Razr Plus. We didn't know there would be 3 models. But the rumors were that the Razr Plus would just become what is the Razr Ultra with all of these, modest spec upgrades. So what is the Razr Ultra, and what does it improve on from the Razr Plus?
I mean, it's a true flagship, and it's kind of Motorola's first North American flagship in 2 years, because the Edge Plus, which I actually don't even remember what the chipset was there, but the Edge Plus was the last flagship phone launched in North America in 2023. They didn't bring one here last year. So it's a Snapdragon 8 Elite. It's 16 gigabytes of RAM. The outer display is sharper and brighter than ever. It's got a new camera system. So it's got a 50 megapixel main sensor. It's got a 50 megapixel ultra wide. They're back to ultra wide on the Ultra. So for those keeping track at home, the Razr Ultra, those have ultra wide cameras. The Razr Plus has a telephoto camera. I don't know why. Oh yeah, it's because they didn't change anything. It charges at 68 watts. It's got a 4,700 milliamp per hour battery, which is huge. It's up to a terabyte of storage. I don't remember if I said that. the screen is slightly larger while the dimensions stayed the same. So it's a 7-inch screen. I think they just shrunk the bezels a little bit because it was 6.9 previously. It is like the nicest flip phone they've made, but like,
Which probably means it's the best flip phone you can buy.
It's certainly like this is a better flip phone than the Z Flip 6, and like we haven't seen a lot of leaks on the Z Flip 7 to be honest, but like I expect it to be pretty much the same, except we've seen that it's got a larger cover screen in the way that the Razr does. But I would be shocked if they change their software to allow the flexibility that Motorola gives on their front cover screen. That's kind of what makes the Razr so special, and it will be a good phone. The problem is the price and the support. And I struggle to square those two things because, like, again, $1,300. Your rivals are the iPhone, which doesn't have a set amount of software support.
No, it's the iPhone Pro Max.
Well, that's what I mean. It's the like, top end iPhone, right? So, but you're getting 5 to 7 years of support out of it, easy. The Pixel 9 Pro XL, which you're getting 7 years of software support, and the S25 Ultra, which you're getting 7 years of software support. Like, and obviously none of those are foldables. There isn't really a foldable I can compare this to right now, just because we are awaiting a Samsung cycle. But like, it's possible that like the Z Flip 7 goes up to $1,300 to match this from 11, but there's a chance they also just undercut Motorola by $100 or $200. And in that case, like no one is going to buy this device, even though it might be better. I really struggle more than ever with the software support because kind of the trade-off with Motorola is that like you usually get a pretty good deal on the phone. You're just going to have to put up with a lack of software support, either extremely late updates and a minimal amount of updates. And again, $1,300. I will stop saying it after this, but you have to provide real software support for that.
No, I disagree. I think you give one update
okay,
over the phone's lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have it self-destruct after 5 years. Just blow up.
Then it doesn't leave any impact on the environment because it's gone. There's no physical pieces left. It's not e-waste if there's no waste.
Exactly. Just it melts into ash.
They did make a couple comments about like, oh, we have like recycled cases, and the whole time I'm like, who cares? Your phone will be garbage after your 3 years. You're gonna make people upgrade sooner than they probably would need to. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm sure it's fine, but like, it's gonna kind of cast a shadow over my entire review of this phone because it's not even like I can be like, well, at least it gets security support for 5 years. It's 4 years of bi-monthly security patches. It's just not very impressive. It's the worst of the major Android brands right now. It's worse than OnePlus. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And yet I'm enamored of the hardware and I just want to talk about some of the hardware improvements here. Obviously, price has to factor into your decision. $1,300 is a ton for any phone, never mind like a vertical flip phone.
2.5 Switch 2s.
We'll get there. But I think with impending tariffs and all that, like, this is not surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if the foldables from Samsung also went up by a couple $100 this year. And, you get 512 gigs of storage out of the box, 16 gigs of RAM. It's a 1200p display on the inner. It's a bunch of massive hardware improvements. The camera should be significantly better. From an engineering perspective, it's easy to be impressed by this, and I am. And yet, I think it's still too close to the Razr Plus to justify what is essentially a $300 price increase. So I'm of two minds about it. I'm excited to see one in person and see if using it day to day, you notice a big upgrade. Yeah. The 4,000 milliamp hour battery in the Razr Plus last year and this year, because for some reason it also didn't get any improvement, was, I think, one of its biggest liabilities. Yeah. I never really lasted a full day with that phone.
It was weird. I reset my model, I think twice, being like, does this have a battery drain issue? Because I'd have last year's models like next to each other on my desk, and I'd watch like, even if I didn't touch them, the Razr Plus would drop to like 96 after like an hour or two of sitting there, and the regular Razr would still be at 100. I'm like, what is happening in the background to do this? I think it was just like the more powerful chip combined with the smaller battery was just like not helping that phone last at all. I agree with you. It was not really a single day's worth. And truthfully, like the thing I am most excited about the Ultra is that battery, because I think you will see, you know, the 8 Elite is a hungry chip, but I think you'll see at least a day's worth, especially if you make good use of that cover screen.
So the Razr 60 Ultra, which is the European version of this device, is already on sale and has been reviewed because Motorola has two separate groups of marketers, and their embargoes are different.
That's why they walled us off during the hands-on. They're like, you're not one of ours.
So if you go to GSM Arena, you can actually read a review of the Razr 60 Ultra. And what they say is that, predictably, because of the thermal constraints of a flip phone, the 8 Elite throttles like crazy. And it's the 7-core 8 Elite version that's found in the Oppo Find N5 and a couple other devices. But this one has been significantly pared back and throttles like crazy. So you're not getting even the irony based on Geekbench scores is that, and I know this is just synthetic benchmarks, but it's worth raising, is that it's actually giving you Geekbench scores equivalent to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 from last year.
The flagship chip.
But also not, because it's actually slower in the single core than the 8S Gen 3. So its multi-core performance is better because the efficiency cores are more efficient in the 8 Elite, the Orion cores. So they're just like more performant per clock in general. But like the single core performance is lower because the clock speed is likely lower. And you see that playing out in N22, in 3D Mark. Like, it's not great. And it is not and look, nobody's going to notice anything if you're not like a hardcore gamer, which why would you be if you're buying this thing? But
I was going to say, these phones are terrible for gaming just because of their like aspect ratio. It's just not comfortable to hold.
Like, this is also a very tall phone.
It's so tall. I couldn't comfortably play Balatro on it, like let alone like other like more action games. Like these are not gaming phones. So, but like I can't say it doesn't matter because you're paying for that chip. So to pay the premium for this more quote unquote more powerful chipset and then kind of not get to use it, what you're really paying for just ends up being like the battery and the brighter cover display and a better camera system. But like, if you want all of that stuff, I have great news for you. You can get better battery life and better, brighter displays and better camera systems on non-folding phones for the same price or cheaper. So like, I just don't know. I don't know who to tell to go buy this phone. And I'm not trying to come up with like a conclusion prior to my review. That's why I don't read reviews, even if my review isn't up yet. I always wait until after. But I walked away from this hands-on feeling stumped on what to write about, and I think I ended up finding an okay angle, but also just like what to make of these phones for all of the reasons you're pointing out. And I didn't even know about the throttling at that point. Again, I agree with you. I don't think it really matters, but yeah.
It doesn't, but it does, because you're, as you said, you're paying for it. So yeah. All right, these phones are coming out in May. We'll have reviews for at least the Ultra and the regular Razr. We'll try to get our hands on the new Razr Plus to see if there are any differences. Other than that, let's move on. This week, Google announced its I/O schedule. We don't know a ton yet. We do know that there will be a focus on AI, as there always has been. Android 16 for TV is coming, and also improvements to Android Automotive. There appears to be a big Android XR spotlight, which will be obviously Samsung is rumored to be partnering with Google, not just on Project Muhan, which is the VR headset that will essentially be the launch vehicle for Android XR, but also the pair of AR glasses, which are likely to be released in 2026, which will essentially be the hardware vehicle for Project Astra, which is sort of what's built into Gemini Live. If you show it your phone's camera and it describes what it's seeing, but this will be on your face, which has all these improvements or benefits rather. So I/O is mid-May. It's going to be crazy. There's going to be a lot to talk about. We don't have a ton yet. We know that Android 16 is basically done. So instead of releasing a new beta, they'll probably just release Android 16.
Well, June is what James was told. And
okay. So that makes sense. So they'll probably make some updates to Android 16, but the stable will be released.
They're going to show off anything they want to show off. And I also think we'll get whatever that second API jump is this year, that second version, probably a 16.1. I would bet that we get our first preview of that this year.
That makes sense.
At I/O.
Yeah. Cool. And that's it. We don't know much more about I/O at this point, but I'm always excited. It's a shame I can't go. It's Computex during the same period.
there's like I was talking to people in New York. There's like 6 events that week.
There's a Microsoft event.
It's a Microsoft event, and then there's probably events that I shouldn't talk about that I learned about from other people. But there are even more tech events.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a busy time. So anyway, I will we'll defer to. We'll try to get our friend Michelle Rahman back on the show to talk about I/O when that comes around. Because if there's anybody who knows exactly what's going to happen weeks in advance, it's him.
That's true. I'll say I think we should each pick a thing we're excited for, and then we can move on. Mine is the same as ever, which is I'm always just waiting for show me that one thing that's going to make me be like, oh, I get AI now. That use case has to happen eventually, right? Anyway, that's always my one thing of like I'm waiting for that iPhone moment, for lack of a better word. So fingers crossed on that one. I don't know if it'll happen this year. But.
So there's Google's already confirmed that there's a new version of Material Design called it's Material Experience 3 that will be announced at I/O this year.
Yeah.
Say what you will about Google's inconsistency.
Material 3 Expressive.
Yes. Material 3 Expressive. Say what you will about Google's inconsistent design across its various products. Material Design has been a net positive for all of Google's products. And I'm excited to see what comes of it. That's what I'm looking forward to most. Plus anything Android XR, right? I'm a VR optimist. I use my Quest all the time, and I love it.
You own a PlayStation VR too?
I don't, because it costs $900 or something like that. But I would if it didn't cost that. Honestly, I would, because there are some decent. Actually, that's probably not true, because there's like no game support. Games.
It doesn't have backwards compatibility.
Yeah,
idiots.
I did own a PSVR. So
I might have considered buying one because I've heard it's incredibly comfortable if they had, because I didn't have either of them, and like there are games I would have played that were on the first PSVR. If it had backwards compatibility, I might have bought it, but it doesn't, so I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, so that's I/O. Let's quickly talk about this carrier stuff. So all the carriers have had their Q1 earnings reports. Verizon lost nearly 300,000 net subscribers. All of the carriers are doing this price lock-in thing, which I think is in response to tariffs and people being nervous. So they're probably, a lot of them are switching carriers in order to get a better deal from one of the other ones. So instead of doing that, all of the big 3 carriers are just like, stay with us and we'll guarantee that your bill won't rise for 5 years.
We'll solve the problem we made for you. Asterisks, not counting taxes and fees.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, the other part of it too that I think we need to acknowledge is that a lot of customers of the big 3 postpaid carriers, Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T, are likely looking at okay, where can we cut costs across our, all of our expenses? And with mobile plans as expensive as they are, even with bundling, they're likely checking out prepaid carriers or like the discount carriers like Visible or Mint Mobile or Boost Mobile. And many of them likely don't realize that they are actually owned by the big three. So Visible is owned by Verizon, Mint Mobile is owned by T-Mobile, Boost is owned by Dish, which was given to Dish as part of the T-Mobile Sprint.
We do not have time to dig into that mess. Just take our word for it.
I mean, everybody's on Dish's excellent 5G network as we speak, right? I think they do sell a Moto Edge. Like, the irony is that that's the only phone that Dish's 5G service sell. Anyway, we're not going to get into that. But yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, it's not like people are not going somewhere else. It's not like they're giving up their cell phone plans. It's that I think Verizon has been considered the best quality, but also the most expensive postpaid carrier in the US for years. And people are getting fed up with it.
My family has been on Verizon since like not particularly long after they launched their like mobile network. It's been more than 20 years for sure. And so when I got my first cell phone, like that was a family plan. I'm still on the family plan. Like there are 4 of us on that family plan. And our bill fluctuates typically based on whatever plans I have people on, how they raise them. Because I manage the account for my parents. And Verizon's big thing these days is like, don't you want to save money by bundling like streaming plans with your cell phone bill or your internet plan? Like, because I also have FiOS. Those are not bad deals, to be honest with you. If you look, you can save some money using that, but like, it's not particularly appealing to me. I was looking at Visible, and credit to Visible, they make it very clear they're owned by Verizon. They have a big Buy Verizon thing under their logo. Other than the fact that we'd all be split off into our own plans rather than be on a family plan, like, I think my family could save based on our usage like $60 a month probably if we switched over to Visible and lose practically no features. Like the stuff that is like most important to like my parents, for example, is the ability to use data in Canada because my parents go to Canada a lot. And 2 of the 3 Visible plans have that. Frankly, like my dad honestly might be able to just go on the cheapest one and they can just use my mom's data plan, stuff like that. I really only started looking at this because Verizon was being so pushy about getting us on new, more expensive plans and using taxes and fees to push it up. And I'm aware that all I'd be doing is moving the amount of money I pay to this company. I'm not punishing them by leaving. But we've been happy with Verizon's service. And like I said, I use FiOS. We save some money based on that bundle. I'm happy with Verizon as a network. It's like the corporation aspect of it, which is true for every corporation. I don't care about not giving Verizon money so much as I'm like, well, okay, if you guys are going to nickel and dime me, like I'd rather move to like, why wouldn't I move to the plan that saves me money and gets the same network? And I think a lot of people are thinking that it's not even a big FU to Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile. It's looking at plans and being like, well, right now, it makes a lot more sense for me to be on an MVNO because I don't lose anything. I just save money. Like the only thing you might lose is some of these tiers you're not going to be prioritized. But even in the case of something like Visible, that doesn't appear to be true. If you're on their most expensive plan, I believe you still get prioritized traffic. Don't take my word for it. I haven't read all of the fine print while we've been recording, but I believe that's true on the most expensive Verizon or Visible plan. I don't know. I just think that's where it is. I think people are looking at $200 a month cell phone bills for family plans, to be clear, and thinking about, okay, even if we move everybody over to the top tier Visible plan, that's $180 a month, and that includes taxes and fees. That sounds like a better deal to me. So,
yeah, I think part of it is that part of it is cyclical, right? T-Mobile. Apparently, Verizon said this in its earnings call that it ended promotions more quickly than T-Mobile or AT&T. So during the Christmas period, post-Christmas, like there were still deals to be had by T-Mobile and AT&T, whereas Verizon is a bit more conservative when it comes to promos after the holidays. And Verizon made more money in Q1 than it has ever made. It was the most profitable quarter it's ever had. So even though it lost all these mobile customers, it still made a ton.
But it's dropped. I'm looking at its stock price, and it's dropped 3% today. Like, their shareholders do not care if they're making money. They care about the fact that they lost 300,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, there are other factors involved in that too, right? Like the long-term concerns for handset replacements are like there will be a small uptick in users replacing their phones now because of tariff concerns and worries, but long term people are going to hold on to their devices longer, which they're already doing.
And they're right to do. It's not even fun to shop for a new phone anymore. It's just kind of tedious. You're not if you have a Galaxy S21 right now, which is a 4-year-old phone, and you go out and buy a Galaxy S25, it's gonna just feel like you bought a new washing machine. Like it's and all it's gonna do is make it your Saturday a pain in the ass where you're transferring everything between devices. It's not fun to go get a new device, which is like a problem that is going to affect the tech industry as a whole, but certainly carriers, because how are they going to get you in the door if like your phone is fine and there's nothing exciting except for the $1,300 Razr Ultra?
I am excited to buy a new washing machine. I'm not excited to buy a new phone, but that's just me.
Fine. What's a lawnmower? Well, I'm trying to think. What is the most boring appliance or appliance or machinery? A dishwasher? Do people get excited about?
I get excited about dishwashers. Microwave. I don't think I can.
Sure. There we go. A microwave, because it's going to do the same thing that your last microwave did. It'll just look different. And if you're buying a new microwave, it's probably because your microwave died and you were pissed off.
Microwaves don't die. It's the hinges on the doors break. This has happened to me twice, where it doesn't close properly anymore, and then there's a fail safe where if it doesn't latch, it won't work, and you can't replace the latch because it's literally built into the plastic of the door.
Yeah,
this has driven me crazy over the years.
I've had the same microwave for almost a decade, because that was when I moved off campus, was in 2015, and so it's coming up on 10 years this summer. And also, I believe my sister used it after I moved home after college. My sister took it to like Texas, where she lived for a bit. So it's been through a lot. You know what? It's still kicking. So I'm just waiting for that thing to die, because it is 10 years old. But it's still. Should I buy a microwave right now and just put it on a shelf?
Yes, definitely buy.
I'm not even kidding. I'm asking Daniel. This is a real moment. I'm asking you for advice. Do you think I should buy a microwave just in case now?
No, I don't.
All right, but if I have to pay $1,800 for what was once a $600 microwave, I don't know what microwaves cost.
Microwaves don't cost 16 or 18 or 6 or 8.
They're about to. Daniel, have you?
If you buy a really good GE, top of the line range microwave, maybe, but
maybe I want that for my kitchen.
Good for you. Okay, I want to talk about.
We talk about the Switch 2. Thank you. Okay.
I want to hear your story first.
Great. I obviously traveling. I was in my hotel room. I was so tired. All I wanted to do was go to bed. I like felt a growing sense of anxiety that I've never really felt before as I was waiting for. I was just like, can we just get this over with? And it went poorly, I would say. I was trying Target because I learned that I have a surprisingly large amount of Target gift cards saved to my account. And so I was trying to get it through Target, which was the place most people had success. But I wasn't using the app, which is apparently what you needed to do. I thought it would be better and faster for me to use my laptop. Apparently, I made a grave error. So I was able to get one in my cart, and then I got it was like half an hour of checkout errors. And I said, this isn't worth it. I'll buy one eventually. I'm going to bed. And then I think 10 minutes after I went to bed, like Best Buy finally opened and Walmart had a bunch. And I probably could have bought one really easily if I had just stayed up 10 more minutes. Daniel, do you know the like shitty internet meme of like the guy with the pickaxe underground, and he's just about to hit diamonds, and then he like walks away. That was me with the Switch 2 pre-orders.
You don't know
That's
this.
where I was.
You don't actually know whether you would have gotten one.
I do, because to say his name again, if I say his name 3 times, he does appear on Riverside like automatically. Ben Schoen was DMing me even after I went to bed and was like, Walmart just opened, Best Buy just opened, I got one, easy, no problem. So yes, I definitely could have bought one if I had stayed up just a little bit longer. However, I had my second chance yesterday with GameStop, and I did not get the bundle, but I was able to get a Switch 2 console.
Okay. So this is a happy ending.
It has a happy ending with like a bummer. There's like a 12-hour bummer period in there, but at like 11:40 yesterday, I was able to get one in my cart and complete the checkout purchase. And then I spent 3.5 hours waiting for any kind of like acknowledgement that this had happened, because GameStop isn't going to charge cards until they ship. It says it on the thing. So I couldn't go by that. I didn't have an email, and in my order history, my GameStop order history was blank because I made this account to buy this, almost said Steam Deck, Switch 2. And then finally at like 3 p.m., my confirmation email came through. So I should be getting one on or around launch day. How did your experience go?
My experience was awesome. So I was watching the latest episode of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And
anything cool happen in that one?
I don't know. It was uneventful. No, it was one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. Like straight up.
I do love Caitlin. Shout out Caitlin Dever. Shout out Justified.
So I didn't time it this well on purpose, but I did end up ending the episode at 11:59, and then
and you were feeling good.
I was feeling awesome.
What you had just watched.
I exhaled a very emotional breath, took the phone out of my pocket, saw that it was 11:59, and went. And then my wife was like, "What? What happened?" And I'm like, "I have to buy a Switch." So so then I went to Walmart to the website.
I was
did not go to Walmart in person at midnight.
Racing through the streets of Toronto in the rain.
I went to Walmart and I searched Switch 2 and I could not find the link because it wasn't populating yet. So I went to my friend's Mobile Syrup. They had a link to Walmart. It opened the app. I then started frantically adding the devices, both the regular and the bundle. And intermittently, they would add and then fail and then be sold out. At around 12:20, I got one in my cart, checked out, and it went through. And I went to bed, and it was great.
Yeah.
So
did you get the bundle or
I got the bundle. I almost couldn't because they seemed like they were the ones that most people were
more
buying.
Popular for sure. I mean, you're saving $30 if you're buying a Switch 2 on launch day. You're buying Mario Kart World.
You're saving a lot more than $30 in Canada.
And sorry, I forgot.
You're saving $70 Canadian here.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So, it was worth it. And I mean, look, this is a problem everybody's facing because $80 for Mario Kart World is a lot, but
worth every penny.
In Canada, it's $110 MSRP.
Yeah, I saw.
And the Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition is $115.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of polygons.
Ridiculous.
You know, you're paying for the polygons, paying for the pixels.
I'm gonna spend the whatever $25 it costs to upgrade Breath of the Wild because
you don't need to. You don't need to. No. You don't need.
Oh,
to
you're right. It's free. It's free. It's
free.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
But I don't think I'm going to buy Tears of the Kingdom.
Upgraded Kirby. That's what you need.
I don't think I'm going to buy Tears of the Kingdom. I think I'm good. Should I buy Tears?
Can
of
I
the
tell
Kingdom?
you? No. Can I? Okay. How do you like Minecraft?
No.
Then no.
Okay.
Because like I don't like crafting in games, and like I played a lot less Tears of the Kingdom than I did Breath of the Wild, and part of it wasn't the fact that like the region was relatively unchanged. There were changes, but like there was enough new stuff to explore, and I like exploring that world in general that I would have been fine with that. Like between the sky and the underground, they're not as interesting as Hyrule, but like there was enough stuff in there. The problem with that game is that it is how much do you want to craft and create? And my answer is minimal.
Yeah.
About as much as I had to in Breath of the Wild is what I can stomach. I'm gonna go back to that game because I do own it on the Switch too, mostly because it looks very pretty on the Switch too. But yeah, I think you will get mileage out of just revisiting Breath of the Wild 8 years later.
That's what I'm going to do.
I'm gonna play Mario Kart World. That's all I'm gonna do. You won't hear from me. Daniel's gonna be like, "Are we podcasting today?" And I'm like, "Check the calendar. I'm off."
Can we do the podcast over game chat while we're playing
yes,
Mario Kart
absolutely.
World?
We can do the podcast over game chat. That sounds great.
Amazing.
And Jules won't have to edit anything. Just put that shit on YouTube.
Put it live.
You're fine.
I think that would be incredible, and I will only charge $10 for the privilege of watching us.
Well, you gotta pay for that Mario Kart World.
You want to see my face really poorly cut out in the game. That's what you want to see.
That is the other thing.
240p.
Well, I mean, yeah, at 10 frames per second. Jules, released the 10 frames per second cut of this episode, by the way. I'm gonna buy my Mario Kart and my Donkey Kong games through Target, so I will still get to use those gift cards. It just won't be on the console.
When is Donkey Kong Bonanza coming out? It's July, right?
It's the back half of July.
Yeah.
I don't remember the specific date.
I thought it was a launch game. I got really excited, and then
no launch window, but not launch.
It's gonna be an expensive summer. Is what
it's gonna be a really expensive summer, which is why after we get off this, I'm going to go buy a microwave.
Good for you. I think you should. Buy the most expensive AI'd up microwave you can buy. Ask your microwave to... Okay, actually, let's do what's making us happy this week, because I'll talk about this in my...
sorry, I'm looking at the... Okay, so what's making me happy this week is the Nuvoton AI smart microwave.
I hate you.
I gotta figure out what this thing does. Oh no, wait, what is this? This looks like spam. I think this is a fake product.
It's probably fake.
What is making me happy this week? Oh, Sinners. I saw Sinners.
Yes, I knew you were going to say this because I read your Letterboxd.
Yeah, that movie rules. Go see Sinners. If you are hearing my voice right now, you've listened to the end of this podcast, great. You have nothing else to do right now. Go to a movie theater and see Sinners, which is the kind of movie that you walk out of being like, oh, I love movies. Like, I feel like we get one a year. Last year it was Challengers, and this year it's Sinners. And Daniel, if you have not seen Sinners yet, you should make an appointment to go do so, because it's
not only am I making an appointment,
wonderful.
I'm seeing it in 70 millimeters. IMAX, because it's one of the 10
really pretty
theaters in the world that's showing it in 70 mil.
I'm crossing the border this weekend. I'm coming. I'm off Monday and Tuesday. You know what I'm doing?
Can we go see this together? It will take you like 3 hours to get here, and it'll be worth every minute.
Not even. It's a 2-hour drive. It'll be quick.
No. So
is it north? Is it north of the city?
It's right? In Vaughan. I know. So it's the Colossus Theater in Vaughan. It's one of 10 theaters in the world that's showing it in 70 mil IMAX. And if you haven't seen the Kodak YouTube video that Ryan Coogler made about all of the different versions of this film, it's worth the 20 minutes or so watching it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, you're gonna love Sinners.
And he so clearly loves just like the medium of film that it's really hard not to get like swept up in the whole thing. Yeah, I'm super, super pumped. I'm also, not only am I seeing Sinners, but I'm seeing Princess Mononoke in the restored 4K release in a couple weeks. So I'm also really excited about that.
Hell yeah. There we go.
Okay, so what's making me happy?
What is making you happy this week, though?
Okay, two things. One is the episode of The Last of Us that I saw.
That made you happy.
It didn't make me, so let me preface it by saying that I knew what was going to happen because there was some embargo on the news, right? So like, I don't want to spoil it, and I'm not going to. But like, there's a big thing happens in this episode, and it immediately after the episode ended, 1 million entertainment sites had like long interviews with the creators of the show talking about it, and it sucked. because it was very easy to tell what happened, even if you didn't know or want to know.
HBO loves doing this. This one is not as bad as the Succession one, in my opinion. The Succession one is the worst one they ever did.
Yeah, you're right. I think
this one is from a 5-year-old video game. It is a spoiler from a 5-year-old video.
So I didn't know this was coming.
Okay. Oh, you didn't know about it from the time, because I have also not played the game, but just like it was such a conversation and it was during COVID. So what else was I going to do that I know about the spoiler of?
I knew game. Like as a sort of passive ingester of all video game information, I knew a lot about The Last of Us Part 2. I knew that it was extremely violent. I knew that the Ellie Abby relationship was like fraught, and like there was a lot of stuff, but I never read the synopsis of the plot to know what happened,
what was coming. Right.
So, I mean, so that I'll just end it there. But the episode was incredible. Like as a production, it was one of the most enjoyable hours of TV I've seen in years. And it was relentless, and it was expensive, and just like, it just made me appreciate television. And it like, I am a big fan of Craig Mazin, the person who co-makes the show, but he also did the Chernobyl series a few years ago. Which I adore, and thought it was some of the best TV ever made as well. So anyway, that was what's making me happy. And the second thing that's making me happy is I am looking to buy an air fryer.
Okay.
Because I just like kitchen gadgets.
We got a new one for Christmas, and I don't think there's been a week since I haven't used it. I'm not saying I use it every day, but I certainly use it at least once a week. It's actually kind of great.
Yeah. So if you have any recommendations,
I'll send you the one my sister got us for Christmas, because I quite like it.
Okay.
Really quickly on and then we can wrap, because it's been a long one, on your Last of Us thoughts. So Mark Mylod is what directed that episode of Last of Us you just watched.
Yeah.
2 years ago, Mark Mylod also directed an episode of Succession called Connor's Wedding. And if you haven't watched Succession, please skip ahead like 30 seconds, because I'm going to spoil Succession, and you should go watch it. One of my favorite shows. So Connor's Wedding aired. You've watched Succession, right, Daniel? Okay. Connor's Wedding aired on April 9th, right, at 9 p.m. on HBO. At 7:02 p.m. Pacific, so 10:02 Eastern, the episode is 62 minutes long. So literally as the episode ends, the Los Angeles Times ran a fake obituary for Logan Roy.
Jesus Christ.
And that is the one that I will always be like, what are we doing? How do you put Logan Roy dies at 84?
Was it sponsored content?
Seconds? No, I think it was just like, that was what their media team decided to do as like a recap of the episode. And I'm like, Maddie and I remember we watched it an hour or two late, but we had not been on social media, and like we got lucky because neither of us knew what that episode was going to be going into it. And it's one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. I would have been so angry if the LA Times, if any publication had shoved this in my face, that this episode that you thought was going to be one, it's called Connor's Wedding. You think it's going to be one thing, and it's a completely different thing. So I guess just it's Mark Mylod directed episodes of television. They're always going to be spoiled.
I love it. I didn't put that together. I knew that he directed this episode, but I'd forgotten that he did the Succession episode.
Oh yeah, he was like the big Succession director. Like if you were getting an episode directed by him, it was probably a good one.
All right, we're going to end there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sending me your money over Patreon or OnlyFans. Next week, I'm not wearing a shirt for the viewers. I will take off one piece of clothing every week until I hit my goal.
You can get by for a while because both of us are only shoulders up. So like, socks, pants, like no one will know.
I will stretch this out as long as I can. All right, we'll end there. Send us your feedback, podcast@androidpolice.com. We love hearing from you. and we will be back next week. So, and hopefully will be more well rested.
Yeah.
Are you traveling?
Yeah. Next week?
Yeah.
No, I'm off Monday and Tuesday because I worked Easter weekend. So I actually have a 4-day.
Okay, so Will will be extremely well rested.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Okay. Well, look forward to that. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.